When Frank Lampard took over the reins at Coventry City in November of 2024, few believed that he would last the whole season, let alone lead the club to one of its most electrifying runs in recent memory. The Sky Blues were recovering from the sacking of Mark Robins, a manager whose name was etched into the club's modern history. Robins had resurrected Coventry from the depths of League Two, he'd brought in a new era of belief, and he had even taken the club within touching distance of the Premier League. His departure shocked the fanbase, and it left a gap that few thought Lampard could fill. Fast forward, and Coventry are not just surviving, they're thriving. They're sitting in a great position in the table, on their best league run in over half a century, and playing with belief, unity, and structure. The Lampard era, it's taken off. To understand Lampard's impact, we have to acknowledge the size of the shoes that he was stepping into. Mark Robins was more than just a manager. He was the architect of Coventry's revival that began in 2017. 2 promotions, a League One title, and nearly a magical FA Cup run that made him a legend at the CBS Arena. Seriously, Coventry were raw dogging Manchester United in that semi-final. Played so much better than them, but ultimately were raw. Ten Hag should be thanking them, to be honest, because that FA Cup was the only reason that bald fraud was still in charge. Anyways, when Robins was dismissed in November of 2024, Coventry were in 17th place in the championship, just 2 points off the relegation zone, and 10 points away from the playoff spots. The club's form was falling faster than Bonnie Blue's self-respect. However, the decision to part ways with Robins shocked many people. Some felt it was disloyal, others thought it was premature.
Robins has done, we weren't so long ago raving about the job that Mark Robins has done. So there's something has gone on that's more than just results, surely, because ultimately they've been here before. They were here a while ago. I think it was a season ago or so ago. They started the season with an inability to play games, and they were behind the curve in home games, I think. Yeah. All of a sudden they were bottom of the league, and Robins punched them out of it, and they got themselves this time 6 months ago, they nearly knocked Manchester United out of the FA Cup semi-final.
That's right.
They were
That's right.
Doug King's landed into a side that he must have thought was easy, getting into the playoffs and so on and so forth. I think that's a strange decision. Maybe they'll put some meat on the bone and clarify why they've made that decision.
Enter Frank Lampard. A phenomenal player, but as a manager, his CV was mixed. I mean, think about it. People spoke more about his weird fake laugh in his post-match interviews than his actual tactics. No, but seriously, as a player, his career was legendary. Chelsea's all-time leading goal scorer, 3 Premier League titles, a Champions League trophy, and a long England career. He was respected for his intelligence on the pitch, his rocket of a long shot, and his leadership in the dressing room. But as a manager, his journey went up and down more than Lily Phillips's neck. Lampard's first managerial job came at Derby County in 2018. There, he actually impressed many people with his willingness to promote the youth and the fact that he actually played an attractive brand of football. He guided Derby to the Championship playoff final, only to fall short against Aston Villa. Crazy to believe that that's where Aston Villa was in 2018, and now they're playing in the Champions League quarterfinals. It was an encouraging start for Lampard, showcasing his potential as a manager who could really balance an attractive style of football while still being competitive. Chelsea soon came calling. Lampard was appointed the manager in 2019, despite only 1 year of experience, and the circumstances, they were pretty tough. The club was under a transfer ban and had just lost Eden Hazard and his juicy fat bump. As a result, Lampard turned to the club's academy, promoting the likes of Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, and Reece James. It worked. He led Chelsea to a top 4 finish and an FA Cup final in his very first season. For a moment, it felt like he was ushering in a new era at Stamford Bridge. It seemed like he was the next former player to become a fantastic manager. But the honeymoon did not last. In his second season, despite spending over £200 million on players like Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, and Ben Chilwell, results became inconsistent. Lampard was criticized for not having an actual tactical plan and being overly reliant on individual brilliance. With more players than stars, he seemed to struggle to manage the larger squad. In January of 2021, with Chelsea 9th in the table, he was sacked and replaced by Thomas Tuchel, who ended up taking the same crop of players and winning the Champions League with them. Not a great look for Lampard. His next stop was Everton, a club that basically twerks on the 17th position in the Premier League table every season. Lampard actually helped them avoid relegation in a dramatic fashion during the 2021-2022 season, and he got a lot of praise for bringing together a pretty disjointed team. But the following season, he struggled to maintain momentum. Injuries, lack of depth, and poor form saw Everton slide back into trouble, and he was dismissed in January of 2023 with the club sitting in the relegation zone. The skepticism around his Coventry appointment was thick. I'm talking Akinfenwa thick. And there was good reasoning for that. Here was a manager with name recognition and moments of promise, but no actual sustained success. Every time he had done well, it was followed by disappointment the very next season. Lampard had shown no consistency at the managerial level. His tactical identity also seemed undefined. His CV at best was incomplete. Many were worried that Frank Lampard was becoming that prototypical former player turned manager who just coasts because of the status of his name and what he achieved as a player, rather than his actual managerial qualities. He had yet to prove that he could actually build a team. He'd shown that he could handle adversity, at least in the short term, but had been unable to make progress over the long term. So when he was named Coventry's new boss, replacing a club icon in Mark Robins, the reaction was one of caution. Some outright just criticized him, but so far, he silenced the critics. Lampard's first task wasn't tactical, it was actually psychological. He had to stabilize a team that was very low on confidence. When he took over Coventry, they were 17th in the championship, 10 points from the playoff spots, and only 2 points above relegation. The team was conceding too many goals, lacked structure off the ball, and struggled to string together meaningful performances. I mean, the way that Coventry were conceding, you would have thought they had Onana in goal. But slowly, things began to start clicking. The pressing became more coordinated, the defense became tighter, and players who previously looked disconnected suddenly found some energy. And then the results came. 8 wins from 9 matches. 1 defeat that ended up being to league leaders Leeds United. It was the club's best run since the 1969-1970 season. God damn, that's a long time ago. I actually searched up what was happening in the United Kingdom during this time, and apparently it was the rise of punk rock, women's rights, and gay rights. Let's just say a very different time. Anyways, Lampard had never been on such a run during his managerial career either, even when he took Derby to the championship playoffs in 2019, nor with Chelsea the following campaign when the Blues finished 4th in the top flight. So even the Englishman was stepping in uncharted territories. Sure, he had good moments here and there, both at Derby and with the Blues, but keeping that momentum for a long period of time was something that he really struggled with, until now. Lampard actually surprised many people with his tactical maturity this season. Early in his managerial career, he was often criticized for lacking a clear identity. To be honest, it makes sense, especially for his Chelsea teams. Nobody really knew what he was going for. Were they trying to keep possession, or were they trying to play long and direct? But at Coventry, he has shown flexibility, and it's clear what he's trying to achieve. He's rotated between a 3-5-2 and a 4-2-3-1, depending on the opposition. This isn't just experimentation, by the way, it's a targeted strategy. When he wants more control in the midfield, he shifts to a compact midfield 3, with the likes of Jack Rudoni and Sakamoto pulling the string. When he wants width and pace, he utilizes Mason Clark and overlapping fullbacks to stretch teams. Lampard has also used that 4-2-3-1 setup in games where he's wanted more stability in transitions, specifically when he's playing away from home. It makes sense, the double pivot gives you more stability, you still have a back 4, and you can get everybody behind the ball. So in certain moments, it's a 4-5-1. What's been really noticeable is the improvement in Coventry's defensive shape. There's an increased discipline off the ball. Lampard has clearly drilled the squad, to maintain a compact shape out of possession. They now defend as a unit, which is a pretty big contrast to the more stretched and passive pressing that was seen in the final months under Robins. Statistically, the improvement has been so obvious. Under Robins, the team conceded an average of 1.35 goals per game. Under Lampard, that number has dropped to 1.05. The press is more aggressive, but it's not reckless. The backline holds the shape, even when they're under pressure. Now, the team is hard to break down, but it hasn't come at the cost of creativity. Coventry are averaging more goals per game under Lampard than they did under Robins, which is always great to see. You would think that one of the greatest attacking midfielders to ever grace the Premier League would know a thing or two about putting the ball into the back of the net. It's a great sign of progress for Coventry fans. They're seeing improvements not only defensively, but in front of goal as well. Set-piece routines have also seen a positive change. Rudoni's delivery has become a weapon, and defenders like Bobby Thomas and Liam Kitching have started to become threats in the opposition box. If only Frank Lampard could have a prime John Terry in this Coventry side. What's great to see about Lampard's side is that they're capable of adapting on the fly, of problem solving depending on the opposition, and being able to play in different gears. It's a rare sight in the championship. Now, while Lampard deserves a lot of credit for his tactical turnaround, his man management has probably been the biggest factor that has led to this resurgence for Coventry. Jack Rudoni has really flourished as the creative heartbeat of the team. He is at the top for the team when it comes to goals, assists, big chances created. The guy is everywhere. He's become the engine in midfield, a really top quality attacking midfielder. And as an attacking midfielder, who better to learn from than Frank Lampard? So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that Rudoni's numbers have gone so much better ever since the Englishman arrived. Mason Clark, a winger who was mainly known for his pace, has gotten even better. He is now even getting goals and assists as he begins to really maximize his potential. This guy, from what I've seen, is basically a nightmare to defend against. Cause yes, he is fast, but he also understands when to accelerate and when to de-accelerate, which is pretty much the most annoying thing to defend when you're a fullback. Cause Mason Clark not only has this ability to change speed, but he uses step overs, body feints to get the advantage over the opposition fullback. A very good winger. And then you have Ellis Sims up top, a player who was once criticized for his inconsistency is now working harder, he's pressing smarter, and he's scoring more. He's not just a striker now, he's a focal point of the team. Lampard is having him put more pressure on opposition defenders than before, and he's getting into better positions when Coventry have the ball. So it's not really a surprise that his output has increased under Lampard. Haji Wright came back from injury and he looks as good as ever. His hat-trick against Sunderland reminded everyone just how good the American is. He has all the tools needed to be a fantastic striker. Maybe now you guys will stop calling me a dirty Yankee, let's just stick to baseball. Even though I'm not even American. Van Aywick and De Silva have been fantastic at fullback. Van Aywick is so good going forward that he could genuinely play as a right midfielder, not just a right back. Pretty much the perfect modern day fullback. Meanwhile, Grimes continues to anchor the midfield. He was a desperately needed signing, so it's good to see him work well. The Coventry midfield was missing someone like him to dictate the tempo, recycle possession, really bring some calmness to the team, especially when it gets hectic. His passing, both long and short, along with his chance creation, has really elevated the team to another level. That midfield triangle of Rudoni, Torp, and Grimes has worked very well for Lampard, and it's exactly what he's trying to achieve in that 4-2-3-1 setup. Even lesser known talents like Sakamoto have thrived, adding goals and assists from midfield. Every player seems more confident, more driven. Team morale is very important. That's why in FIFA Ultimate Team back in the day, there were actual cards you could use to boost your team's morale. When you're trying to get a bunch of individuals to buy into a project, buy into a team-oriented goal, you have to have everyone on the same track. Now the numbers tell one story, the vibes tell another. Yes, I know that term is cringe, but atmosphere is so important within a team. You don't want to end up like United, where players come to the team with a smile on their face, and then fast forward a few months and they look like they want to off themselves. Not sure I've seen anyone age more quickly than Amorim. Before Lampard, the team looked like it was bracing for impact. No, I'm not talking about the type of impact like Lizzo sitting on you. I'm talking about the impact of relegation. Now, they play like they belong in the top 6. At one point, Coventry collected 24 points in 9 games, more than any other championship team in that span. They had just lost once at home for a while since Lampard took charge. They won at Swansea for the first time in 75 years. They beat Preston in the league for the first time since 2007. That's the impact that a change in mentality has on a team. Lampard has given the team confidence. You can see it with every post-match fist bump, every smile, every celebration. Everyone around the club knows that they're going in the right direction. And more importantly, it shows that Lampard understands what the club represents. He hasn't come in to erase the history that Robins had left. He's come to build on top of it. The foundation was set. Coventry just needed someone to take him to the next level. Now, is Lampard really the right guy? This video was pretty much me glazing him, but history has told us that we're gonna need some more time, because there's been moments throughout his career that he's always looked good as a manager. The issue has always been consistency and longevity. As we approach the end of the championship season, this is where the real obstacles lie. This is a league that's notorious for unpredictability. Even Lampard knows this. Remember, he's been through the grind. He took Derby County to the playoffs in 2019. He managed Chelsea under a transfer ban. You guys understand how ridiculous it is? Chelsea under Roman used to spend for fun. Even when Roman's gone, they used to spend for fun. Managing Chelsea without money is like taking an alcoholic to the bar and telling him you can't touch any of the vodka. It's a tough challenge. Then he fought relegation at Everton, and that's not an easy task, even though it seems like every single season Everton finds themselves in a relegation battle. This new version of Lampard though is more grounded, more adaptable. He's always been humble, but he's even more realistic now. And so far, it's been paying off. But of course, there will be slip-ups. There's gonna be setbacks that the team has to bounce back from. But for now, they have the momentum, the belief, the tactical identity, and the depth to really make some noise. And more importantly, they have a manager who's proving he belongs in the game, not just because of the name on the back of his shirt, but because of his actual managerial qualities. When he first arrived, many saw it as a risk, a flashy name replacing what was once a steady hand. It was a gamble, but so far, it's paid off. Coventry are playing their best football in decades. The fans believe again, and many of their players have been reborn. And Lampard, someone who was doubted at every step of the way, now looks like a man who's taking care of some unfinished business. If this run ends at Wembley with promotion, it might be one of the best comeback stories English football has seen in years. And if it doesn't, well, Lampard has already accomplished something that once felt impossible. He's making Coventry dream again. Now, one team that will make it very difficult for Coventry is Leeds United. To see why Leeds are at the top of the championship table, you have to watch this video right here.